All right, nice to see everyone. We'll give it just another minute or two. I hope everyone enjoyed their Thanksgiving holiday.
I know we had a few folks who were sorry they couldn't make it today, and we're looking forward to the recording. So that's a reminder, we always record these, put them both on the email list and YouTube for folks to watch after. I also am looking forward to getting the contact chat or a contact list, a shareable list for folks who want to opt into the list. I know we've had a request for that, so that's to look forward to. But yeah, some new faces this month, so we'll see who joins.
Yeah, should be good. All right, we're up to 36. That's a good number. Let's get started. Welcome everybody to our December monthly meeting of the Alaska Hydrogen Working Group. My name is Erin. If you don't already know me, I'm the director of the Arctic Energy Office and facilitate this group with support from Patty Egan, who is in the big picture on my screen right now. Here, I can change that. Who works at the Alaska Center for Energy and Power at UAF, University of Alaska Fairbanks. So always appreciate her logistical support with these calls. Okay, just a couple of announcements before we get started, in case anyone has to leave us before the end. We will not be having a January monthly meeting, but we will be having a February monthly meeting. So that will be February 4th. Patty will send out reminders. If you're not on our distribution list, please put something into the chat or message Patty directly. And let's make sure we get connected with you for future announcements. All right. Today we will go through our usual introductions and updates, and then we have a featured presentation by Jim Stevens from Atka on hydrogen developments out there, and then of course time to ask questions and catch up on all of that. So without further ado, we invite you to introduce yourself if you're new to the group, or if you've been on and you've just been quiet in past meetings, or if you've been gone for a couple meetings, and also to share any updates or announcements relevant to the hydrogen ecosystem. So don't be shy, it's a friendly group. We would love to hear from you. And we always ask after you introduce yourself to put your contact info in the chat so that others can follow up with you and Patty can make sure you're on the distribution list. So do we have any new faces today or people who haven't been with us in a while? Joel Jorgensen, please introduce yourself and let us know how you're connected to the hydrogen space and where you're calling from.
Hello, everybody. I'm Joel Jorgensen with BWR Innovations in Fargo, North Dakota. And I had a chance to meet several of the people from Alaska virtually and in Seattle at the recent hydrogen RE Plus charge. And I've had the great honor to collaborate and discuss things with Mr. Jim Stevens of Atka. So I'm pleased to be here today.
Great. Thank you so much, Joel. And please put your contact info and anything else you'd like to share with the group in the chat. And we'll make sure we get you on our distribution list and others can follow up with you as well. Simon. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Hello. I've attended this a couple of times, but never said anything. My name's Simon Harrison. I'm the commercial director of Alaska Marine Power. We're looking at offshore wind development in the lower Cook Inlet, potentially to make hydrogen for export.
Terrific. Thanks, Simon. Simon's partner in crime is David Clark. Yep, there he is. Thanks. So Simon, please go ahead and put your contact info in the chat. And Joel, do you have an email you can add to that entry you just put in the chat as well? Oh, perfect. You were already on it. Okay. Terrific. Any other introductions? Alamac? I'm sure that's not your name, but
Hi, Alan Mace here with Ballard Power Systems. We're a Vancouver, BC company. I'm actually based in Washington State. Happy to be here.
Terrific. Thank you, Alan. Please put your info into the chat. Appreciate that. Tim, I'm going to pick on you. Is there anything you want to say regarding the announcement you just put in chat?
Thanks, Aaron. Tim Leach. I'm the Deputy Director for Transportation at Launch Alaska and also the Director for the Alaska Clean Cities and Communities Coalition. I'll touch on that in a second as well. But for the info that I put in the chat there, Zero Avia, which many of you might know, is the startup, although a very large startup at this point and fairly successful, who are working on a hydrogen fuel cell power plant for various types of aircraft. And they've already piloted some of that. They've got bases both in the UK and then also in the Washington State area. Very exciting to see that development, but they're hosting a summit. They had a very early morning for Alaska time anyway, very early morning session today for their first day. And then also they'll have a second and final day tomorrow. I think it starts maybe 6:15 a.m. Alaska time tomorrow. So if you're interested in the aviation space with regard to hydrogen use, definitely worth checking out. This is, I believe, the second year that summit has been hosted, and really rich content from this morning. So I'm sure there'll be something similar tomorrow. You can get to a registration page there through that link that's in the chat.
Great. Thank you, Tim. What's the status of Zero Avia's activities in Alaska, by the way?
Yeah, in brief, we're still working closely with folks from Zero Avia. As I mentioned in the chat, they came through the Launch Alaska Tech Deployment Track program. Trying to remember which year that was, a couple years ago, at least now. So they are still working with us when we're talking about infrastructure development in especially the Cook Inlet area, thinking about our stepping stone approach to hydrogen infrastructure that we'll probably need to do at the ground vehicle level and start to work on some of those storage challenges that are there, as well as hydrogen supply, before we can then get the infrastructure ready for deployment or even just a demonstration really of hydrogen in the aviation space. So Zero Avia is still partnering with us on those conversations. We'll focus our attentions really on the Port of Alaska work with regard to their decarbonization of cargo handling. And that again is going to be an early stepping stone in the planning effort there towards aviation and hydrogen, which hopefully we'll get to at some point in the coming years.
Terrific. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that. Moses, may I pick on you since you just put an introduction in the chat? Would you like to say anything? Oh, Moses, we can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Oh, still not hearing you. You know what? I'm going to give you a minute to work on technology on your side. Thank you for your entry into the chat, and I promise I'll come back to you and see if we can get that figured out. But for now, we are going to move on. Okay. Other introductions. I see some new faces on here that I haven't seen before. So if you don't introduce yourself, I might just pick on you, but gently and nicely, I promise. Shelly, thank you.
Hey, Aaron, I'll volunteer. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. So I'm Shelly Thomas. I actually work on our e-commerce side, supporting parts sales for Chart engineered equipment. So the company I work for is Chart Industries. They're a global company. We are pretty strong in the hydrogen space. We don't sell the molecules themselves, but we sell a lot of the equipment that supports the industry. So it's just really good to kind of make connections in Alaska is what I'm hoping to do here and learn more about what's going on with hydrogen in this area. So thanks for having me.
Terrific, Shelly. And where are you calling from?
I'm actually outside of Anchorage. I'm in Eagle River.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Great to hear that. All right. Other introductions?
I'm Scott Patterson from Kaufman Engineers in Anchorage, Alaska. work with Justin Freeman, who I know has given presentations of the stock before.
Thank you, Scott. It's great to have you on the call today. Go ahead and put your contact info in the chat if you're comfortable doing so, and we'll make sure you get on the distribution list and other people can follow up with you as desired. All right, more introductions.
Can I ask Shelley to say who she works for?
Yeah, I had to unmute. Hello, yes, Chart Industries. So we sell engineered equipment in the cryogenic gases industry, and then also fans and compressors and things like that. So we're a global company with over 100 different manufacturing sites around the world.
And how many of you are here in Alaska for the company? Is it just you?
12,000 employees, and I'm the only one in Alaska, if you can believe that.
Wow.
Okay.
You put your contact details on the chat.
Yes, no problem.
Okay. I think I saw someone try to raise their hand in a video or otherwise. Other introductions there? David's just scratching his ear. He's not raising his hand. All right, more introductions. I'm gonna have to pick on people. All right, I am going to pick on Paul to give, I know you all know Paul, but he just got back from a very exciting trip and might have a little bit to share with us. So Paul.
Sure. I was part of a delegation from the Alaska Center for Energy and Power that just got back from Australia. We had a fairly long stint there, about 2.5 weeks, which was broken up into attending the Isolated Power Systems Conference on King Island in Tasmania, and then conducting site visits around both Tasmania as well as Western Australia. The main items I'd like to share are the hydrogen site visits that we got to conduct during that trip. So we saw, I think, 5 different microgrids. We saw 2 different hydrogen systems. This group talks a lot about looking for demonstration projects and developing lessons learned. And so that was a key motivation for these aspects of the trip. We got to see the Atco gas facility that operates in Perth. Their facility is very much designed to be exploring pairings with the gas industry and hydrogen. And we also got to see the Denham hydrogen facility in remote Western Australia that's looking at electrolytic hydrogen from solar for energy storage. So I just want to give a brief overview of kind of both of those facilities and some of my takeaways. I also saw that Ingemar Mathiasen, who was also on the trip, is on this call. And so I'll let him chime in with any of his takeaways as well. I think the main items that I'd like to flag are that both of these facilities are testing the waters on hydrogen. And so when we got to do both of these tours, neither of them was actually in operation. They were both under maintenance and repairs. The Atco facility is essentially a 150 kilowatt electrolyzer plus high pressure storage. They have a campus next to their main headquarters in Perth, and they are looking primarily at natural gas blends for a nearby community, as well as refueling for hydrogen vehicles. So they have both of those capabilities sort of in a demonstration phase. They can blend up to 10% hydrogen in their natural gas supply, and they can refuel about 5 hydrogen vehicles per day. So they have about 84 kilograms of hydrogen storage. It's a fairly small demonstration plant. Importantly, though, they also have a hydrogen training center that's intended for bringing on people from either utilities or from the gas industry and training them up in an accelerated course to be prepared to work with hydrogen. And so just as a gauge of reference, they say that they can take utility operators or gas operators, put them through this 4-week course, and then they are generally prepared to operate in a already built hydrogen facility. I will note that we did not get to go beyond the fence line in the Atco facility. So we got to see everything from the outside. We got to see the presentation. We didn't actually get to look at any of the systems that were inside. But again, the electrolyzer wasn't operating. There probably isn't all that much to see. We got to have a definitely more in-depth look when we went out to Denham. So for context, this is in Western Australia. There are a lot of parallels with rural Alaska in terms of the distributed nature for isolated microgrids. The facility out there has a different purpose. This is a demonstration project that is supported by the Australian government to essentially develop lessons learned for running hydrogen in a microgrid. So there is a solar farm with dedicated power for this hydrogen facility. The facility itself consists of a 350 kilowatt electrolyzer, 200 kilograms of compressed gas storage, and 100 kilowatt fuel cell. The main thing that I will flag is that Horizon Power, which is the utility that owns this hydrogen demonstration project, they have been fairly transparent about the challenges that they've incurred with this pilot. The plant was not operating when we were there. They've gone through 2 electrolyzers, and I think they're on the 3rd fuel cell. They, I think, will be the first to tell you that environmental conditions and project design and management have been ongoing challenges for them. And so working with contractors that are new to the hydrogen industry and themselves being a utility that are new to the hydrogen industry, I think have provided no shortage of challenges, but a lot of lessons learned. I would also note that they are not producing economical hydrogen. So with all of the maintenance and repairs that they've had to undergo, they are really looking at this as a demonstration project, not as a current benefit to the utility. So at the same time, I think that we see a lot of parallels with the questions that we're looking at in Alaska. How do we deal with environmental conditions? Obviously, we're not looking at the extreme heat. We're looking at more often the extreme cold, but trying to have informed and responsible design for systems, looking at how what modifications need to be made for systems that work in the lower 48 and how they translate into Alaska. I think all of these are the types of lessons that we're hoping to learn from our Australian colleagues. So I'm going to pause there. That's a fire hose overview of what was actually a 2-week trip. But I will drop in the chat some what I think are pretty informative links. These are reports from Horizon Power about their lessons learned with their hydrogen facility. I'd encourage you all to explore them when you have time if you're interested. Happy to take some quick questions here too. Yeah.
Any quick questions for Paul?
I saw some items of the chat that I was trying to read while talking. Tim, I think I saw a note from you about the open source curriculum. I will follow up, but I believe that is not open source. Atco runs their own training facility. Utilities pay to send their operators there. If people are interested, though, although this doesn't include any certification, Pacific Northwest National Lab has a pretty comprehensive database on hydrogen training, lessons learned, key aspects of system design. They have their own online courses Obviously, that won't lead to an actual certification, but if you're interested in the space, it's a pretty good starting point, in my opinion.
Can
Thanks,
you
I'll
put
drop-
that link in the chat as well, Paul?
Yep.
So you're going to be pasting links in the chat for the rest of the meeting.
That's all right.
More questions for Paul. I'm looking at the chat. I think we covered. Looks like Shelley and Roxana might have some resources for Tim as well. So yeah, please put any and all links in the chat that might contribute to this discussion. Any more follow-up questions for Paul?
I'll also put my email in the chat. So if you have questions or want to discuss any of these things further offline, happy to do that.
Great. Okay.
Karen, none that I think are shareable on the Atco side. I will look at the Horizon Power report. I believe that all has to be public, but I don't have the number off the top of my head for project costs. Can I also briefly, I just see Ingmar turned on his camera. If Ingmar, if you had wanted to contribute your thoughts or takeaways, I defer to you as well, since you were on the trip.
Okay. Yeah. Good morning or noon, guys. I would say that that's a great overview, Paul. It was a good trip to see what people are doing down under. Not sure I can add a whole lot, but there's some points that were standing out, and that's that Australian government has a top-down approach on all this, and they are climate-driven more than anything else, not bringing down cost of energy, but climate-driven to get cleaner energy. And if I remember right, they wanted something like 80% clean energy by 2050. Is that what you recall too, Paul? But yeah, and that's driving them to actually go out to households, businesses everywhere in the small communities to create solar IPPs that they can add into the mix, because they don't seem to have enough capacity on their own to do this. So they want to enlist as many entities as possible to drive this change to 80% renewables, which is quite amazing. And with that is also the hydrogen exploration then to how to use it. And if it makes sense, obviously we can make hydrogen, and they're proving that they can do it really well with solar. So half of their solar arrays is producing hydrogen in some places, and then find ways to how to use it and make it financially doable. It was a good trip, and see what they were doing down there.
Okay. Thank you. Any other follow-up or questions for Paul? Terrific. Okay. Thank you for that update, Paul. Really appreciate it. I promised Moses we would return to him to see if we could get his audio working. Moses, are you there? Do you want to try to talk? I see your little square here on Zoom. Oh,
Yeah,
you've now gone off mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Wonderful.
Well, actually, I had to sign to the phone because my browser is denying me access to the speaker or to the microphone. Anyway, my name is Moses Coss. I work with the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation, Division of Air Quality, and of course, our interest is in potential increases of NOx as it relates to hydrogen projects, especially from power generation. So that's our main interest, at this point.
Terrific. Thank you, Moses. And people scroll back a bit, they'll see his contact info from Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation and the Air Quality Permitting Division. So appreciate you joining us today, Moses. Thank you. All right, this is last chance for anyone to introduce themselves or to give a general announcement. Karen, thanks for your info there in the chat. Do you want to say anything?
Killa, Aaron, thanks for having this. I don't have a lot to add. We're not doing a ton in hydrogen. We've done some assistance and some renewable energy projects in the past. We have wonderful renewable energy resources in our region, but the distance, the lack of infrastructure, and the costs make it a challenge to incorporate. But the resources there, we're super excited about the work that Atka Village IRA Administrator James Stevens and others are doing out there, and really look forward to seeing how that goes. And besides having incredible resources that are largely untapped, we're also on the Great Circle Transportation Route. And so the future of marine transportation and alternative energies is something that could be really important, and we could be a part of it if some large scale investments were made. So we recognize what kind of magnitude we're talking about, and that's why it's so interesting to get a sense of the magnitude of other projects elsewhere. If you can do it in the middle of the outback, maybe you can do it in the Aleutians. Thanks, Erin.
Thank you, Karen. And Karen comes to us from the Aleutian Pribilof Islands Association. Thanks for putting your contact info into the chat. And I see Paul is gearing up to flood us with links so we can look up interesting information in the outback of Australia. Bill, thanks for your entry into the chat. I'll remind people tomorrow, you got 24 hours if you want to get a concept paper into the Pacific Northwest Hydrogen Hub project. That was one of the handful of hydrogen hubs that was awarded by the Department of Energy. We did talk about this last time as well. Hopefully, if you're submitting something, you've already started it by now. But hey, there's 24 hours. You could do big things if you get some ideas today. Okay. Any other further introductions or announcements or updates before we move on to our featured presentation from Jim Stevens? Paul, did you want to say something? A different Paul, not Paul McKinley? Nope. Okay, I think that was just a little flub.
My name's Murray Coons. I'm with the Corps of Engineers in Tri-Cities, Washington, and we're looking at some marine turbines that might have more information for you for the next meeting.
Okay, great. Murray, I see you're calling in, so we can't get your info in the chat.
Yeah.
But feel free to reach out to Patty, and we'll make sure you get connected for our next meeting. Do you have her email there?
I'm not sure. I got that came on the meeting notice.
If you got the meeting notice, you can get in touch with us. So
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'll take a look at that.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Any other introductions? Okay. All right. Well, then it is my pleasure to introduce Jim Stevens, Tribal Administrator for Atka. Jim is trying every which way to get a hydrogen project going on Atka. So I am really excited to hear what the latest and greatest is. So Jim, you can take it away. It looks like you're starting to share your screen and I see a slide. That's perfect. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to share what little I know about hydrogen. We were introduced to hydrogen just a year ago, thanks to Erin connecting us with the person. And we've been our leadership in the village has been really excited about the opportunities for hydrogen. Now, I guess it's all driven, and I think this is why, I'm presenting today, is there's a lot of renewables heading out to rural Alaska. But the challenge they face is what they do with the excess energy they produce. especially those wind turbines. There's been a lot of talk about batteries. There's been talk about pumping water up a hill to run a hydro plant. But 2012, Atka invested in its own hydroelectric plant. It's capable of producing 270 kilowatts of energy. But the community's only, you know, on Thanksgiving Day with all the ovens going, burns up about 70 kilowatts. But the hydroelectric plant is down a couple weeks at a time throughout the year, clean out the grates, low water events, a little bit of freezing problems. But we spend $9 a gallon to get diesel delivered to Atka. So that means our diesel generators are sucking up 90,000 a year. Home heating, because much as I'd like to go all electric, the rates are too dang high. People don't want to go all electric. We need to bring those rates down. So residents are paying 100,000 a year for home heating oil. And the school district is about 72,000 a year for diesel. And so our goal is to get rid of it. I mean, when I was in Iceland with Aaron and the gang from Alaska, we were still waiting for our annual fuel delivery. It was more than 8 weeks late, and we were running out. And, you know, I can't tolerate that kind of uncertainty anymore. So we've been looking at different options and funding opportunities. But the financial impacts of converting to hydrogen based systems are significant. You know, we get PCE support, and that's just a major pain to maintain and their rules on what you can charge and what you can't charge. But you know, like right now, our cost components, 150,000 a year for non-fuel expenses. We don't know, you know, we talk to the city, they don't know who these non-personnel costs are, over 60,000 a year. But they get pulled into that formula. The fuel burden right now is shown at 63,000 because PTE believes that we only pay $5 a gallon. But that's what they tell us we're paying, and that's how they compute our PCE reimbursement. So the cost per kilowatt hour is 62.5 cents, which is, you know, you can't have any economic growth. You can't operate a fish plant with those kind of energy costs. There's so many things you can't do because power is so high. But let's remember, right now the subsidy PCE is 33 cents a kilowatt hour, about 160,000 a year out of the state coffers go to the village of Atka, tiny community. That means that fund is managed by the Permanent Fund Corporation has to have a minimum of $3 million working on our behalf. If you get a 5% return, 3% internal rate of return means they have to have $5.3 million set aside forever for us to keep us happy with diesel. So what we're looking at is we need an electrolyzer that'll produce about 54 kilograms an hour. We're looking at, I didn't know we needed a redundant electrolyzer until I heard from Paul, because we certainly can't let those things go down. But we did price out redundant fuel cell, a couple 100 kW fuel cells. We looked at different storage media. We like metal hydrates, the static solid state storage, but those are so dang expensive. You know, they'll add another $6 million to the price tag just for 2,000 kilograms of storage. When I was in Iceland, everyone laughed at me when I said we just gotta bring in a container, plug in a garden hose and an extension cord, and away you go. Because you have to have pure water. And so thanks to our work, recently with BWR, Dr. Jorgensen and others. They have a system where they pull water from the humidity around the area. And of course, we're a marine environment, so humidity ain't an issue that it would be in the interior. And then the system also would have to have some means of dispensing it for fuel cell EVs. We don't like batteries out in Atka. We don't like wind turbine blades because they both wear out. They have to be disposed of. And we're still trying to get rid of military waste from 80 years ago. We are averse to bringing in toxic materials. So right now, Total Hydrogen Solutions, the BWR folks, $6.35 million to install the system I just went through. Their pneumatic and hydraulics, they're coming up with another estimate. Hydrogen on Demand company quoted as $14 million, but that's because they wanted to use the metal hydride storage system. So, the price has come down quite a bit by just going with a compressed storage system. So, it's come down about half. We look at this continuing to come down as technology evolves. But when you compare the operating and maintenance costs of a fuel system versus diesel hybrids, and let's remember that communities that have the wind power, they have a wind diesel hybrid systems, because when wind don't blow, they need to fire up their diesel generators. And so they're still facing very high operating costs. So, we're looking at providing a demonstration of what can be done in Alaska. So right now, our non-fuel costs, like personnel, drops from 150,000 a year down to 15,000 a year. Our fuel goes from 153,000 a year for power generation and home heating down to zero. Our depreciation is a little bit higher because we wanted to be able. I don't trust the dehumidifier systems. They're only $100,000, so I figure they'll last about 10 years. So our depreciation is a little bit higher. But you add up all those and you divide it by the amount of kilowatts that you're generating annually. Alaska Energy Authority figures, or the PCE people at RCA figure 62.5 cents. Our cost of producing electricity, our cost of sales by putting in this project, 7.9 cents kilowatt hour. The impact on the community, on economic development, is just going to be absolutely incredible. I mean, I don't think anybody in the state pays that amount. My presentation is nice and short. I do have some questions for the audience. And some, because what we need right now is some advocacy. Help us shake that money tree, find this, 6.3 million. There are some funding sources that we've applied for. There's a new one out we're going to apply for. But more importantly, on the federal side, the General Services Administration, they solicit proposals from companies at the request of different entities like tribes. And so we really need them to, they're doing the battery electric vehicles, but we really need GSA to start soliciting proposals for fuel cell EVs, so that when we're in operation, we just see this being used everywhere. The hydrogen fuel cells, powering our vehicles, powering heavy equipment. We heard about, facility, material handling at the Port of Anchorage. And, we've only got a few miles of road. So we don't need a whole lot of storage. We just need to be able to get these vehicles through the GSA so that, they're affordable solutions that we can demonstrate the utility of. And, finally, Atka, we'd like to be the poster child of hydrogen fuel demonstration projects. We're ready to go. The folks at BWR, they say, the electrolyzer will fit in a 10-foot Connex. Those fuel cells, they're not much bigger than my desk. And we only need a couple of those. There's some piping involved and a little bit of dispensing equipment. I'm really interested in learning some of these lessons learned from the guys down under. But I think we're ready to go. And I'm really looking forward to moving this project forward, because we're beyond the conceptual phase. We've got the prices, we know the materials. Now we just need to procure it and get it installed.
Thank you,
And that's
Jim.
about all I got. You betcha.
We got lots of questions here. I'm gonna go back up to the
Really?
top.
Uh-oh.
Yes, you're a
Uh-oh.
popular guy today.
How
This
do I
is
stop
great.
sharing?
It would be awesome if you would be willing to share your slides with Patty. She could send them out in the meeting recap as well.
You bet.
So the first question I see from Bob is, how much diesel is being consumed by vehicles and equipment, or is that what you include in the Atka diesel bucket?
Yeah, we bring in about 30,000 gallons a year, at $9 a gallon delivered. So that's for $270,000.
Didn't you say 90,000 though on your slide?
Well, 90,000 is just to operate the diesel generators.
Okay.
But when you
But
add in the
so
home heating, you add in the school, and then the heavy equipment, it gets up to about that.
okay, so that should give you a ballpark estimate there, Bob. Okay. Let's see here. Is Atka using heat generated by the diesel engines? If fuel cell, do you plan to generate heat from electric heat, essentially?
Yeah. Yeah. We do not capture the waste heat at this point in time from and the generators are only operating 20% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so what,
go ahead.
as a tribe, we get some set-asides for grid resilience, and we get some set-asides for energy conversion. So we've got another pot of money to convert the homes from oil boilers to electric boilers. And if we need to do any upgrades to the distribution lines, we've got the grid resilience money ready and ready to go.
I'm really glad to hear that. And also, just for context, it might help people, especially those who are not familiar with Alaska or Atka. How many people live in Atka? I think that would
60.
be 60. Okay, so that's $270,000 spent on diesel for 60 people every year, plus other energy costs. So I think that
plus
really
160,000 a year in PCE support, and another chunk of change, probably about 20,000 a year in the LIHEAP, low income home energy assistance program.
Right.
So
well, that's
we can
easily
get rid of all that. We can get
Yeah.
rid of all that.
It's easily, thousands of dollars per person per year in energy costs. Okay, thank you for that. Let's see here. Let me look at some other questions. I see definitely some tidbits and resources. Another question, Bob, you're on a roll. Is the military still active in Atka? If so, are there projects that are jointly beneficial?
No. The Corps of Engineers is funding the cleanup. There's the FUDS program being run by Jacobs Engineering, and the NALIMP program, which is operated by the tribe. We've got $20 million of cleanup that needs to be done, and they're funding us at $500,000 a year. So, one or two of us have job security for cleaning up.
Okay. And then a question from Moses. Do you have a good handle on water treatment costs?
Well, I'd defer to Dr. Jorgensen, but because he's the one that turned us on to this pulling moisture out of the air. But that should be just an electromechanical process. And we've got lots of excess electricity that we can do this. And just so you know, to store 2,000 kilograms of hydrogen, I think we need to operate our electrolyzer maybe 60 days a year. So we've got a lot of capacity to produce more as we find off takers.
Okay, great. I'm also going to amplify Quinlan Harris's comment about this DOE, Department of Energy CMAP funding opportunity. If that's CMAP stands for Community Microgrid Assistance Partnership. The current deadline for those applications is December 20th. I think there's some possibility that that deadline may be moved back, but there's been no official announcement made yet. I'm going to put a link to that program in the chat and encourage everyone to take a look at it and see if it's relevant to your projects or communities.
Yeah, the CMAP is mostly planning work, and frankly, we're beyond that. There's we have some tribal clean energy deployment. There's a RFP out or an OFO out for that, and so that's what we're going to apply under. And then USDA also has a $600 million pot of money that is available for our fish plant, because it's got to be an ag producer that applies for it. And so we can do some conversions at the fish plant to get them ready. Because I mean, if you know, we bring the light bill down, the cost of electricity down as much as we plan to, we're going to have a lot of processing ships stopping in and plugging in. And then, you know, we'll just operate cold storage facilities. We already have a good runway, so we can start moving frozen processed fish product out of Atka. We're only 3,000 miles away from Korea.
Okay, thank you. Another question here. Is there a plan for space requirements and delivery pressure for the required 2,000 kilograms of gas storage?
That fits in a 20-foot or 40-foot connex. And the other thing I like about these containerized systems is we skip NEPA, the environmental process. We already have, you know, gravel pads in place. We already have our easements for the electrical lines, so we don't have any NEPA holdbacks other than just filing the CADX paperwork.
Okay.
So we're ready to go.
Paul McKinley had asked that question, and I saw, Paul, you furrowed your brow a little bit when Jim was answering it. So did you want to follow up there?
I was just wondering if you have an indication what the actual storage pressure would be, because 40-foot shipping containers not too big. Has that been
Dr.
decided?
Jorgensen, you wanna elaborate, please?
Absolutely. So what we're doing as a part of a funded research for the Department of Defense is using 5,000 PSI tanks.
Okay.
And with that, we end up with a scalable modular system for the compression. We've looked at metal hydride systems, we've looked at compressed, we've looked at liquefaction. There's a number of different ways that we can create the hydrogen storage. The big thing, to Mr. Stevens' point, it's a modular system. So we can put this as 40-foot connexes and grow the storage. We can grow the electrical production or the hydrogen production easily as the situation needs.
Okay. So I just want to clarify those. So from the space requirement for 2,000 kilograms of storage at around, you know, 300-ish bar pressure, you need more than one 40-foot shipping container for that, correct?
Right now, what we're doing, yeah. So the ones that we're looking at now are somewhere between 600 and 650 kilograms at a 40-foot container.
Okay.
Yep. And then as more are available, as there are others available, then there are some that we can increase the storage capacity in the same footprint.
One other quick follow-up, or I hope it's quick. I think I saw, Jim, on one of your slides that you need about 54 kilograms an hour of hydrogen, which makes me think that's a pretty big electrolyzer. But then it sounds like since this is for sort of seasonal operation, you might only need 60 days of operation. Could I maybe clarify that, Joel or Jim?
Yeah,
What's
that's
the
actually
overall
closer to
capacity
the
factor?
that in a 24-hour period, not per hour, but per 24 hours.
Okay. So you need 54 kilograms a day.
Yeah.
And you want to operate it for 60 days.
Yeah.
And it's looking
That's not
like
60 days in a row, though. It's 7 to 10 days at a time.
sure. But it's looking like that that capacity factor will pencil out over time.
Yeah, it pencils out. And the nice thing about how the system is put together and the architecture that Mr. Stevens is talking about is we have the ability to grow that hydrogen capacity. We can be selective on when we're using it. When we have available electricity or when electricity is particularly cheap. So yeah, we have the ability to create the hydrogen in and about that 54 kilograms per 24 hours. And it pencils out pretty easily.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that. Okay, Masha Koleva is asking how the sizing of the equipment was decided upon.
I asked the expert. Well, but right now, I mean, all I said is we need to be able to generate, at least 70 kilowatts of power. That's our output when the hydroelectric facility is down. And so we just need to displace the diesel generators. And I've gotten some proposals from about 3 different firms so far. And it used to be very widely. There's a lot of wild costs, a lot of snake oil salesmen out there, people who think they know but have never done it. Companies like BWR are doing it right now in Houston. I hope to get down there end of next week to look at their facility. Because, like I say, they're building them and pushing them out the door right now.
Okay. Great. Another question or maintenance and operation. I don't quite know where that question's going, but.
Well, part of the our RFP does include the commissioning and training portion of it. There is, of course, some safety training that people need to have and want to have because it is hydrogen. So there is, but once it's operational, I haven't seen a whole lot in the way of ongoing maintenance O&M costs. These and should be remotely monitored to help with the operations. We do have good internet out there. We hope to get even better internet. And that just increases the demand for cheap power. One of the things I saw at BWR was they actually have these small units that power Bitcoin mining facilities. And the demand for energy for Bitcoin mining and data centers, is growing astronomically. So whatever we can do to meet the need, all of a sudden, it just creates more and more economic opportunity for those communities that have, the infrastructure in place, cheap energy, reliable internet.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Jim? Go ahead, Simon. You're still on mute. There you go.
Hey, Jim, thanks for the presentation. Your island clearly has huge energy resources, very windy place, maybe geothermal as well. Ever thought about turning a problem, which is expensive energy, into an opportunity? Actually converting all that energy into hydrogen for sale to somewhere like Japan?
As a matter of fact, when I was in Iceland, we met, I met with some government ministers from Iceland, and they're actually they're interested in our geothermal resource. If you've never been to Iceland, it's fantastic. I mean, the government there has invested so much in energy infrastructure. I think it's about 80% is reserved for industry and 20% for domestic use. And they've been able, because of their stable government, their governance, good governance, they have a good tax base. They have all these things in place. They've attracted smelters. They have aluminum smelters. They have a silicon plant over there, and they're getting ore all the way from Australia and South America is being shipped to Iceland for smelting. Iceland is, and there's going to be, we're at the nexus, of another geopolitical conflict there in Atka and the Aleutians. The Russians and the Chinese they're draping or trailing their coats, along the boundary. We have a need to put subsea fiber across the pole because the Chinese are treating, the South Seas as their own. They won't let anybody come in and repair all those subsea cables as they break. We've got the military coming back in on the US side. We've got all these things happening. Fortescue down in Australia, they're looking at a source for ammonia to fuel their ships. So, as transarctic shipping increases, the need for fueling hubs will be there. But before I get way out there, we need to actually demonstrate that the stuff works. Small baby steps, and then we're ready for the giant steps. Because Iceland's looking at us as a source for possible investment.
Is the island, I mean, you said earlier that you weren't interested in wind because of disposal of blades, and you have a bad taste in your mouth from the military. But so is the island tribe open to industrial scale renewable energy developments that would that is not primarily focused on providing you with power, though it would do. It would be focused on developing offshore wind and geothermal to make hydrogen for the Japanese. I mean, are you open for industrial scale development?
Atka is open for business. We are open for business, but we need to know your business before we let you in. What are the impacts going to be on that kind of energy production? How many rats are you going to bring in with all your dang ships? Those are the things you have to consider. That's I have the world's most enjoyable job as tribal administrator. I do the day-to-day operations. My tribal council tells me what they want, and I figure out how to get her done. They told me they want hydrogen fuel. That's what they want. My job is to figure out how. If they tell me they want large-scale industrial facilities, we'll bring it in. But yes,
There you have it, Simon. Just no rats.
No rats.
Right.
Okay.
Bill Eady's here.
Yes,
Can
go
you hear
ahead,
me?
Bill.
A little more on ammonia. Have you considered storing hydrogen in the form of anhydrous ammonia? We don't have a good way to produce ammonia yet directly from renewable electricity, water, and air, but people are working on that. And then, of course, you could recover hydrogen from the ammonia or use the ammonia directly in internal combustion engines, as the people in the marine world are discovering. Storage then is in cheap propane tanks. As long as you take the brass fitting off and replace it with stainless, you'll be safe, and it's only at 150 psi. Have you looked carefully into that? And are you tuned into the Ammonia Energy Network that does a very nice job of bringing the world picture to us. Thank you.
Right now, I don't understand the scale required to produce ammonia, or use ammonia as a storage medium. You know, but
Well,
all I wanted to do was produce 70 kilowatts of electricity, you know, and hydrogen seemed to be the solution. And as we move forward, we are open for business. We are, but first, baby steps. Yeah, I don't know enough. I know what I don't know, and I don't know much about ammonia right now, other than it's, the shipping companies are looking a lot more closely at it. So
That's why I suggested the Ammonia Energy Network. They have a very nice history library of presentations that's been given for the last 15 years. So in your spare time, you can become an expert in only a few months' time of steady studying, or find some bright person in town to take on that task for you.
Bill, I invite you to put any relevant links in the chat there that maybe Jim can use, or follow up offline after the meeting.
Thanks.
So that would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Any other questions for Jim? Moses asks, can you please go over again how you are powering the electrolyzer?
Sure. We have a operating hydroelectric plant there in Atka. It's capable of producing 270 kilowatts of energy, and the community right now is at maxing out at about 70 kilowatts. So we have all this excess capacity, and I'm just trying to figure out how do we can maximize, and capture and store that excess energy.
Terrific. Okay. All right. Have I missed any questions in the chat? If I did, please, no offense was intended. Or are there any additional questions from anyone online at the moment now? Okay, go ahead and use the raise hand feature. I can't always track all the different people in their boxes across everyone who's on the call. Okay. All right, Jim, any final closing thoughts here? It looks like we might end a little bit early today.
Yes, Aaron, thank you so much. Is it the Alaska Energy Hub? You're the Alaska Energy Ambassador, Ms. Severson.
Oh, Larissa,
yeah.
Yes.
She put information about our project out there, and we're getting lots of interest in people wanting to help and hopefully be a supplier for our equipment and training.
Right.
So that's been a great asset.
Terrific. Jim is referring to the Arctic Energy Ambassadors Program that our office, the Arctic Energy Office, funds. We have 12 ambassadors in each of the regional native corporation areas in the state. Larissa Syverson is the Aleutians ambassador, and their job is to help with the connective tissue between DOE and all of our regions of Alaska, and to help make sure projects and priorities are coming in from all across the state. One final question for you, Jim, actually, another one from Bob. What are the current diesel generators in place? So I think number, capacity, make,
We have
model,
a couple of them. I think they're about 70 to 100 kW. The fish plant has a 200 kW and a 500 kW. But the fish plant is not operational because the energy costs are so dang high.
Okay, great. And it looks like Bill Lady has put some ammonia energy links there in the chat. Okay. Another question from Brian. Are you also looking to improve insulation in buildings, homes or schools?
Not really. I mean, we're a real temperate climate,
Okay.
we're at 58 degrees latitude. So we're pretty far south and we get lots of sunlight. We don't need much more than R19 in our walls.
All right, that's good. There you go. Tropicals.
Plus, 8 cents a kilowatt hour, we could turn up them electric registers as high as we want, and it won't cost us much.
Hey, terrific. All right. Lee Bowling is asking if you've considered testing BWR system with ASAP.
You got $6.3 million, Aaron? I would
Well,
love to.
I said I'm not asking it. Lee Bowling is
Oh,
asking it
okay.
From Kaufman.
Heck yeah.
Well, maybe there's a
Open for
proposal
business.
there. Perhaps that's a conversation to have offline.
You bet. Like I say, we're ready to go.
Okay, well, we want to make sure these systems work too in communities, and we, aren't saddling communities with extra O&M that they can't handle. So, I think pilot operations in, controlled environments can be one way to suss that out. So, let's see here.
Okay.
Bill, lady, can we ask you to mute your, there, perfect. Okay. One more question from Bob. Bob, I think you're going to have to follow up with Jim afterwards, but I'll ask this last question of yours. Would it be of interest to discuss ways that currently installed internal combustion engines can use hydrogen rather than waiting for fuel cells?
Yes, we've been looking at converting just our ATVs and our outboards. In fact, I think both Yamaha and Mercury have hydrogen fueled combustion engines for outboards. And we saw some information about man trucking that they have combustion engines. But my thanks to Justin Freeman at Kaufman Engineers, who pointed out that these internal combustion engines aren't as efficient as fuel cells.
Okay, thanks. And my mistake, actually, Bob had intended that question as a lead for our February meeting, maybe a presentation of sorts.
Yeah.
Always appreciate that. And that's a good reminder that we always appreciate your requests and ideas for our feature presentations for our monthly meetings. We try to be as responsive as possible. So if there's something you'd like to hear about or a project that you'd like to provide an update about, please let me or Patty know. And we would love to incorporate that into future meetings. So again, thank you, Jim. We appreciate your time and the information. Our next meeting, we will skip January since people tend to be a little sluggish coming off the holidays, and next meeting will be February 4th. Do I have that date correct, Patty?
Yes, Tuesday,
Okay.
February 4th.
Awesome. Are there any further announcements or updates for the group before we log off here? Okay. Thank you all very much. Enjoy the holiday season. We will see you all back in February. And of course, we would love to have any conversations with you individually before then. So have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Jim.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.